Welcome back. If you're watching this video, I'm going to assume that you've already contacted us and have obtained a user ID and a password and are ready to start indexing some records for us. One way you can get to the program is you can say to go to our website, go to Events, Get Involved, and select the 2024 Cemetery Indexing Project link. You should be familiar with that. That's where all the recordings you have been watching have been located. That's also where we're going to have additional information, frequently asked questions, perhaps other or perhaps different videos um, as the project moves forward. So this is a good place to check into, but it's also a good place to start the program. So if you go to the custom interface we have created, you will arrive at the beginning of the program. The links that you're going to have before you even log in are the DGS website. That'll take you right back to the website, or the cemetery database will take you to the website directly to the cemetery database page. But we're interested in getting you logged in and indexing, so let's see what happens there. So I click on the login button, and I'm going to log in here. So I've entered my user ID and my password, and I'm going to click on the login button. So the first time you log into the program, you're going to arrive at this screen, and you're going to see this. It's a pull-down window that contains no uncompleted records, and it's because you haven't yet claimed any. So that's the first new menu option that you see here is the claim records link. And that's how you're going to be able to grab some number of records and say, okay, I'm working on them. Nobody else mess with them. Come back to that in just a minute. You'll also see later on, once you've cleaned them, this is where you come to edit them. If you've completed them and you want to come back and look at them and revise them, you can do so using the revise records link. You can check the status to see how many have been indexed, how you're doing compared to other people, or you can simply log out. So those are all the menu options that you get once you have logged in. So let's claim some records. We'll click on the claim records link here. First thing I'll point out is that we limit the number of records you can claim at any one time. By default, that's 5. You can go up to 10 or even 15, but to get started, I suggest you just stay at 5. Again, by default, we're just going to grab cemetery records at random. If there's a particular cemetery you want to work with, then you can pull down this menu. And if it's listed here, it means that there are records still available to be indexed. As time moves on, as we complete a particular cemetery, when all the records have been indexed, that cemetery will no longer be listed in this menu. So if you see something disappear, that just means good news, we've got it done. I've been working on the Bennett Family Cemetery, so let's just grab that one. We'll take 5 records from there, and we'll click on the Claim Records button, and the system just reserved 5 records for me. So now when I pull down this menu here, you can see that I've got 49 through 53. Now, for some reason you don't want to work on this particular cemetery or you want to release them, what have you, there is the ability to unclaim records. And so if I click the unclaim record, it's going to unclaim this record number 49 and remove it from my list. And now I'm down to 4 records. You can unclaim them in any order. For example, I can go down here and select 53 and unclaim that one. And now I'm down to 3 records. So if you want to release them for some reason, that's fine. The system will only allow you to keep them for 14 days. After that, we will automatically release them and assign them to somebody else. But still, it's just kind of a courtesy. If you've got records, get in there and undo them. But if you think that you can't unclaim them, it's just kind of a nice thing to do as well. Okay, we've claimed records. Let's edit them and see what happens. So I'm going to click on the edit record, and it's going to take, by default, the top record on this list, and that's the order that I suggest that you work on them in. There's a reason that I'll explain later in I think, this recording why that's helpful. So just take them in the order that they show up and edit them as they do. So let's see what happens. Okay, so here is the edit record or edit cemetery record screen. We have pulled some information out of the cemetery database for you to help you in selecting the appropriate records as you start searching over on Find a Grave and Family Search and Billion Graves. So, of course, we have the name of the person that is buried, their date of birth, the date of burial, and their age at the time of the death. Now, if the program actually had something in there, you'll frequently see something like 87 years, 11 months, 10 days, and that's what will be displayed. In this case, there was no age of death in the cemetery database, so our program has just calculated it. We took the date of burial, subtracted the date of death, and came up, through the magic of math, with the number 88, and we just indicated that that was calculated to differentiate it from something that was actually contained in the database. You might see some inscriptions, some notes, perhaps the name of a funeral home, spouse, or lot owner. These are just pieces of information that may help you as you're searching through the records. Note that you have no ability to change any of this information. This is all just essentially read-only information, again, presented to you to help you search the records. Keep talking about searching the records. How do you do it? Well, That's down here at the bottom of the screen. And what we're looking for, of course, is some URLs. We want to find out, see if we can find the Find a Grave URL, the Billion Graves URL, and the death certificate URL. Now, by default, all of these fields are set to no record found. And that's just exactly how we want to leave it if you don't find a record. Okay, so if you find one, great, delete that and pop the URL on top of it. But if you don't find a record, just leave it as no record found. Please don't change it or add any other information to that field. It's very important to the way that the program works. You've got several links down here, and these will open up windows in the appropriate place for you. You get to find a grave, billion graves, family search, and a general search, and then family search and a Texas Death Index search. And so all of these are available for you to use. So let's just do that. Let's open the Find a Grave search first. And we're not finding anything right now. And sometimes you have to play with the attributes to see if you can't help. And Find a Grave is very particular and very specific. So we've specified something very particular here for a first name. I wonder if I just delete it. And there we go. There it found Albert Enoch Bennett. And 1906 and 1994 are the two dates we're looking for. Born in 1906, born in or died in 1984, and in the Laurel Oaks Memorial Park. Now that brings up a really good point because, as you know, we were looking for something in the Bennett Family Cemetery, and so on the surface, this looks like, oh, we found the wrong record, and actually, that's not true. So I want to point you out back to our cemetery database, back over on the server. You go to collections and go to local records, and then our burial and cemetery information, and it will take you to a page that has information about all of our cemeteries. And they're alphabetical, and Bennett happens to be right here. What I suggest you do when you start working on a cemetery for the first time is come over to this page and read the information right here to familiarize yourself with that cemetery, because it's going to be helpful in cases like this. So the Bennett Cemetery was purchased in the 1950s by the Laurel Land Corporation, and so the Bennett Family Cemetery has actually now been subsumed and incorporated into another larger public cemetery. And so the fact that this thing in Find a Grave says that it is the Laurel Oaks Memorial Park is actually correct. The Bennett Family Cemetery is not part of the Laurel Oaks Memorial Park, and so therefore this information is actually correct. And so, like I said, it's just a good idea to familiarize yourself with the background of the cemeteries we're working with. Many of these are, very old, have been around for quite some time, have changed hands, changed names, and it's just helpful to understand that, when that has occurred. So it turns out this is absolutely the right record. It is actually the right cemetery. So I'm going to grab this URL. I'm going to copy it, come back over here, get rid of my no records found for the Find a Grave, and replace it with that. Okay, and I'm going to close these two windows because I don't need them anymore. Let's see what happens on Billion Graves. And we're looking for an Enoch from 1906 to 1994, and not finding him. And that's not too uncommon. So let's just remember that for a minute, and let's open up the Family Search general window. Family Search has a much better search engine, and they have an easier time finding, I find these Find a Grave and Family Search things if they exist, or Find a Grave and Billion Graves. And so it's sometimes handy to come over here and see if they can't do it for us. And in fact, I think they have. Here's an Albert E. Bennett, 1906, 1994, in Billion Graves. That looks like what we're looking for. Let's see. And there we go. Albert Bennett, 1906, 1994. And that is absolutely correct. So that is the person that we're looking for in the Laurel Oaks Memorial Cemetery. So I'm going to grab this URL. And with a hearty thanks to Family Search, I'm going to post the correct URL here. Okay, we don't need that Bennett Graves. Where's that one? Oops, I closed the wrong window. My bad. Let's go back to Family Search General again, because we want to come back here and see if we can't find a death record as well. Now, what we're looking for is a death record where Albert Bennett is the principal. You want to watch out where he or she, depending on what you're looking for, is mentioned in relation to a record for some other person. Principal means that the record deals with that person. And so that's the kind of record that we're interested in. And let's see if we can find a death record here. Oh, here we go. Albert Bennett is the principal in this Texas Death Index. Life is good. Let's go take a look and see. Don't have a lot of information, but we do have a death date, 15th of September, 1994. And that lines up with what we're looking for. So we have found the death record. We'll go back in and I will place that in the death certificate field. And we're done. There is no need to prolong the search looking over here. We have found the information that we want. So I'm just going to save this information. It will write it and it will come back here to the edit record screen and take me to the point where I can edit the next record. And that's just all you do. You just continue editing these records one after another until you find or until you've completed them, in which case you go back and claim another record again. I'm going to edit the next record and talk about a couple of things here that I want you to know about. The first is, again, looking at this age at time of death field. There are occasions in our database where we have incorrect information, where we actually have a date of burial that is before the date of birth. If that occurs, you're going to see in this location death before birth. And that's an indication to you that we have a problem with the record in our database that we want to correct. You may encounter other problems. You may encounter information that we have incorrect here. So you might find, for example, a date of birth that conflicts with this, or a date of death that conflicts with what you have here. We have a mechanism to provide some feedback to correct the information back over in the master database, and that is located down here in this very bottom right-hand corner where there's a button labeled Contact Administrator. If you find any problem with one of the records that you're working with, or you find, again, some difficult or some differences you think that we should know about, you can simply click on this Contact Administrator link and you can type us a message and tell us whatever you want. You can say, for example, date of death is incorrect, find the grave and find a search both say the date is thus and so. So if you can say, that's wrong and suggest that several records support it being whatever it is, that's good information for us to have. The program will know the person that we're talking about, it'll know what cemetery we're talking about, and we're automatically pulling over information about you so we know who you are. So all you have to concentrate on is just typing the information and clicking the send comments button. Now, one thing about this, go back and edit this record again. If you had happened to have put some information in here and then clicked on this contact administrator button, all the information you had in these fields, which has not yet been saved, would be lost. So it's a good habit to get into as you're, as you come into a record, check the state of death, and if it's wrong, contact the administrator right away so you don't blow anything away. There is a way to get around that, and that is up here. That is the Edit Records button. Once you have edited records, they're going to start being listed here. And again, if you've done them in the order they were presented, this ought to be the record that you just finished. If not, they'll be listed down here. You can choose whichever one it was that you want to edit. But for example, let's go back to this one. I can edit the record. And again, I still have a contact administrator option down here. And with this, I don't have to worry about any of the information that's already been saved. So this is another way that you can come back and contact the administrator if there's something wrong and you want to get their attention. Okay, so we've talked about how to claim records. We talked about how to edit records. Let's come back and touch about this just a little more detail. So revising records is just a way for you to go back, and if you have any need to, go back and change anything that you have already edited. And so again, it is going to be listed here, and you can pick whichever record it is that you want to revise, and you can go back and revise it. You can make any changes that you would have when you were originally editing it, and save the URLs, and then just write it over again. So that is one way that you can go back and review and change records. Just note that you are limited to 100 of the most recent records that you have indexed. So if you're really into this, after a while, they're just going to roll off the bottom of your screen and not be available to you. So just a word of the wise there. Status is just simply going to show the total number of records. And as you can see, we have a lot of records we want to do, and we're not very far into it yet. The program is just getting launched. Actually, we haven't even officially announced it as of this recording, but we're going to soon. And so you can see we finished 265 records, which is just a little bit over 0.5%. And those of us that have been involved in debugging the program, of course, have a head start on you. But we're also tracking records completed in the past 3 days, in the past 7 days, and in the past 30 days. And so as you get going, you'll start seeing your name show up here and hopefully up on the top as a leader for that particular period of time. Lastly, then, when you're done, it's just a good idea to log out and make absolutely certain that you are completely logged out of the program. And so that concludes this introduction, and that should get enough to get you started. There's another module in here talking about indexing Oakland records. And so if you're interested in doing that, there are a couple of additional fields that we have that you're going to want to know about before you launch into those. So be sure you watch that video.